but they're using that legitimate concern to screw us.
I think it's very much about manipulation. Wasn't it there just something about cold fusion on 60 Minutes and all the technology that has been suppressed that could have over the last many, many years been used to substitute for the things that really are polluting the planet. I don't believe the whole green agenda that's being implemented by this government, this cap and trade, I think it's creating another bubble. It has already created another stock exchange. There are people already starting to
carbon
make
trade
money
companies.
by finding really disgusting, dirty plants that are no longer in use and selling their carbon credits to newer plants, so newer plants don't have to have the newer safety mechanisms that would reduce their production or something. But in essence, it's going to, it actually pollutes more. I also believe there's another nefarious, I think it's not nefarious, but another really insidious aspect to this cap and trade, and that is to control you.
Mm-hmm.
That I think the ultimate goal would be RFID chip, so that everything you use, everything that you don't use, no matter your garbage, you're not garbage. I think that there's a lot of other ways to go about this, but look at our society. Our education is so narrow at this particular point, we can't even have conversations about this. It's almost accepted that there's this global warming thing, and if you say it's a scam, you know, people are just like all over you. So we certainly have to figure out a way to widen this conversation to include all of this other manipulation that's going on.
I think, Tim, I totally agree with you, and I saw all the meat listing up there and the animals.
Right,
And
right.
I suspect that he put that in there. I, like you, hope that we could reduce our consumption of all those.
Right, right.
But I suspect he put them in there because the majority of Americans by far use them. So he's trying to let the American people know, if they watch this film, hey, you know, you're going to be taxed for eating hamburgers and
Right.
drinking milk and, you know,
Yeah.
things that we think we have a right to go and buy without being, well, we already pay for it without being taxed for it too, you know.
Right.
Yeah, being conservative should be a personal choice, not something to make money for the global takeover.
Right, the offshore global bank.
That's right.
Should be just personal right. If you want to smoke a cigarette, fine. If you want to eat meat, fine. But it shouldn't
Now you
be.
say, okay, well, here's where I would object to what you just said. If I want to smoke a cigarette, fine, but can I sell you that cigarette? Is that fine?
Sure, why not?
What additives?
Right.
Why not?
No, the Native Americans. It
Right.
grows in
If
the
you wanna
land.
smoke
This thing,
tobacco,
you want to smoke
I say
tobacco.
fine.
Go ahead, smoke tobacco. Smoke all you want. You want to smoke marijuana? Do that too. If it grows from the land, it was given. It's given. It's part of like who we are. What I find like really disgusting about the cigarette companies is that they add something
To make it
to
more
the
addictive.
cigarettes.
They add all kinds of
that,
stuff.
That
Add a ton
they
of stuff.
fit you.
Benzene,
and you know, I
formaldehyde.
think this is the role of like,
Everything has the control. They have the control from
Sure.
from the start, and then we use it, and then they have the control over taxing us for using it.
Right. Well, and of
You know,
course-
meat is polluted too. So
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I
Yeah.
love the whole cigarette thing because, of course, you know, there was the big lawsuit where the cigarette companies were forced to admit that, oh, cigarettes are bad for you. And so they were forced to pay a huge lawsuit settlement to the states. And initially, it was supposed to go towards cigarette reduction programs, you know, healthcare and cigarette reduction programs. But then,
Yeah.
gradually what happened was, oh, this money just kind of got folded into the general
Yeah, yeah.
funds. And so the state suddenly was in on it, getting some of the money from the cigarette sales just straight off the top. So, you know, even the government itself started making money off cigarette sales, and the whole idea of reducing them, or, you know, they don't want to reduce
No, they don't
sales
want
now
to
because now they're
reduce
making
them.
money from it.
They just raised them 60 cents a pack.
Right, and so.
And remember that initiative they had on the ballot a few years ago? Oh, it was a couple years ago, and a friend of mine, we were having a beer together, and I hadn't finished my ballot. I told you about this, Kathy, and he sees me mark you know, it was, you know, the healthcare for the Children's Initiative funded on smokers. I've never been a smoker, and I would make them lick the ashtray at the end of the day. Maybe they have to quit smoking. Maybe they quit smoking too, you know, because it's such a gross thing. But it was paid for by smokers. And then the idea was that it was going to take care of children, health care, and then also they were going to reduce the smokers' consumption because of the tax put on smokers. And in reality, do you really want to have less smokers when you've just created a health care fund that's going to be paid for by the smokers? So let's have more smokers so we can pay for the, you know, it was just a joke. It was just a joke.
I mean, to me, it gets back to, you know, what are legitimate products that we should be trading in this culture? You know, you know, what are the products that we want to be making and consuming?
Books.
Books are good.
Beautiful books, you know,
Especially
you know,
since
organic food, you know, mass transit, fast train. I mean, you could come up with a great list of things that you would rather have being made. I mean, you know, just this morning, I read I work in a bike shop, and the Trade magazine came out, and the last domestically manufactured bicycle frame factory
Oh,
is
wow.
closing.
Who is that?
Cannondale.
Oh,
Cannondale. Oh yeah, we're moving it all to Asia. And it's like,
Of
it's
course.
happening right now. They're hollowing out this country. This
Yeah.
country is being completely gutted.
Oh, yeah.
And it just makes me
Absolutely.
sick. And none of this talk about, you know, recovery or any of that crap addresses the core issues of what are we making, what are we consuming, and why are we doing it? You know, and that's what I can't stand. And that's why cigarettes kind of irritate me a lot, because it's like, why are we making them? Why are we consuming? Who's making them? Who's consuming them? Who's making all this money?
well,
I mean, if people had to roll their own from raw tobacco, I'm all for it. And I
But
say
didn't they
that's the
increase-
only way.
They increased the tax on that, didn't they?
They probably did. Well, that
It was
they,
big time.
yeah, they
They
did.
did.
The roll your own
Increased
tobacco
roll your own
stuff.
tobacco,
Yeah.
they-
Roll your own, smoke it, and you know, what is the role, like, when you think about it, the role of government is to protect people?
Well,
it's
That's
supposed to be,
it.
yes.
Protect your freedom?
Well, everything that they've created to be for the people has always ended up turning into something to create money for the government.
That's, as it gets bigger and
Nothing
bigger.
Right.
has ever happened to benefit
Well-
us. It's always in the end benefited them.
What?
Government should not harm its people.
No.
Oh, anybody gonna bring up the chemtrails?
We were talking about
Talk
the.
about harming your people, it's like, it's blatant at this particular point, it's in our sky, you know, that we talk about
We were-
cigarettes,
er,
and that's a whole other thing. At least I have a choice to pick up a cigarette or not, I have a
Right.
choice to educate myself about what's a good cigarette, if you will, and a bad cigarette. I don't have a choice about what they're spraying on me.
right. Or what you're breathing from the tailpipe exhaust. Or, I mean, there's any number of forms of pollution that are kind of forced upon you.
Yeah.
I mean, like here in Portland, it was an issue that came up, and I haven't heard anything about it since then. But very odd little detail that the gasoline that's being burned in the Portland area had benzene in it.
Oh, it had for years.
Yeah.
For years it's had benzene in it, and
Yeah.
they did tests like actually really near the spot.
Yeah, yeah.
And where I-5 and 84 junction, that whole area is like highly toxic. Wyden made noise about trying to get it changed. I don't know if anything ever got changed, but you know, I think about the chemtrails, and I think about how they can manipulate our environment
Weather modification.
with ease.